What you're talking about here, this new group that's going to examine all the Trump prosecutions, that is highly abnormal. And I think that is corrosive to what DOJ is about.
Well, folks, if you thought for a second that maybe Pam Bondi, Trump's new attorney general, was going to be slightly less insane than the rest of Trump's clown posse cabinet of meritocracy, because she actually had experience as an attorney general, the position she has now been confirmed for, well, just wait until you hear the alarm bells. One former federal prosecutor was sounding off louder than Paul Revere on CNN in this breaking story about exactly how Trump's administration plans to weaponize the exact same government they've been complaining has been weaponized this whole time. Because it turns out, as we've been saying, despite the sheer amount of incompetence in Trump's inner circle, competence in the wrong hands goes a long way towards destroying democracy and replacing it with dystopia. Especially when Trump's Ministry of Truth is concocting chaos and lies to distract everyone from the subtle workings of the shadow of the deep state that will actually have lasting repercussions. Remember how Trump and McConnell snuck in all those judges to the circuit and Supreme Courts? Do you see how now those very same courts are our last line of defense against Trump's cronies deconstructing American democracy? Yeah. Keep that in mind as we watch this next clip, and as always, if you give a damn about stopping this man, drop a like and subscribe to Really American to support the resistance. Let's get into it. First, in relation to how Pam Bondi is literally trying to rewrite Donald Trump's court losses here, and then hopefully with a glimmer of hope at the end as they talk about Trump's unconstitutional failure of trying to end birthright citizenship. So make sure you stick around for that.
Okay. Let us talk about Pam Bondi. She's expected to order a review as well of cases brought against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
State cases. We're talking criminal and civil cases that a jury has decided where he lost. What can she actually do?
So part of what Pam Bondi did yesterday is totally normal. When she sent out a memo saying, here's our new enforcement priorities, we're going to emphasize immigration, we're going to emphasize human trafficking. That's what you would expect to see from any AG. What you're talking about here, this new group that's going to examine all the Trump prosecutions, that is highly abnormal. And I think that is corrosive to what DOJ is about.
Yeah, you heard that right, folks. Pam Bondi is setting up reviews of previous cases that Trump has already lost, essentially trying to rewrite history. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't bode well for me as someone who remembers how it went the last time Trump tried to review and rewrite something he lost. But alas, as always these days, it gets worse. So what can Pam Bondi actually do here?
Now, when it comes to the two federal cases, the Jack Smith prosecutions of Donald Trump, DOJ can look at whatever they want.
The power
that's their stuff, that's in-house, that's their files. It's going to get dicier if and when they try to delve into the state cases, the Alvin Bragg hush money case, the Letitia James lawsuit, because DOJ, I believe in the next several months will say, we need your files, and I think Alvin Bragg's going to say, no way. Right. And we could end up in a showdown in court over this. But look, this is politicization. I mean, there's no reason to reopen these cases. I've been critical of these cases, you know.
Have, yes.
I think that there have been prosecutorial missteps. But to go into this and to try to declare that these were politically driven, I think, is in itself political.
Exactly. A classic case of pot and kettle, of every accusation is in fact a confession. Politicizing and weaponizing the government is wrong until Trump and Republicans do it, but the Democrats are nowhere to be found with their between their legs.
And there's this question of what happened to states' rights. I mean, you know, Donald Trump and the Republicans have always been talking about states' rights. And in this case, I don't know if that's something that's going to come up. But I do want to ask you about Bondi, who is threatening sanctuary cities. And sanctuary cities, you know, for people that understand what they're doing, they basically give more protections to undocumented migrants and tell their local authorities not to help out federal immigration authorities. So she's talking about rescinding money, taking money away from these cities or states that are doing this.
Yeah.
How would that work? Does she have the power to do that?
Well, it's clear that this DOJ is going to take a much harsher approach to sanctuary cities. One of the first things that was done even before Pam Bondi arrived was a memo went out that essentially said, we expect cooperation. It even threatened potential prosecution of people who do not cooperate. Now, you cannot force locals. The feds cannot force the locals to cooperate with them. However, they can. There are a lot of programs that are depending on federal funding, and that is a potent threat, I think, to say that if you don't work with us, or especially if you interfere or obstruct what we're doing, we have the ability, we're going to at least make an effort to pull back federal funds. That's a really powerful incentive, and it may help DOJ get what it wants here.
All right. Let me ask you about another case that is bubbling up.
Yeah.
You've got a case that's supposed to come up today that has to do with birthright citizenship. Right. Donald Trump trying to revoke that. The Supreme Court has spoken on this and has said it's constitutional or unconstitutional to take away these birthright citizenship. What do you see happening going forward? Because there are more lawsuits on the way.
Yeah, so birthright citizenship is actually, forget about, I mean, the Supreme Court weighed in, but let's start with the Constitution itself. The 14th Amendment essentially says that any person who is born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is automatically a citizen of the United States, and that was 1868. 30-some years later, the Supreme Court said, yes, it means what it says, which is if you're born here, even to immigrant parents, you're automatically a citizen. Now, Donald Trump, first day in office, issued an executive order trying to withdraw that, and immediately there was a spate of lawsuits, and there's at least 5 out there now. So far, every federal judge who has looked at Donald Trump's action has rejected it. And there was one judge, and there's a hearing again today, federal judge in Washington, that really excoriated. He said to the poor DOJ attorney who got sent in there to argue this, something like, this is the most unconstitutional argument that you're making that I've ever seen. Now, you might think, one might say, well, that must be some Trump-hating Biden or Obama appointee. No, it's a Ronald Reagan appointee who said that. So they will be back in front of that judge today. I do think this is ultimately destined for the Supreme Court. I do think Donald Trump's effort to undo birthright citizenship will be rejected.
So yeah, thankfully, birthright citizenship is unconstitutional, and it looks like the supremely corrupt court will uphold that. But setting aside the hypocrisy of what Pam Bondi is doing, which we all know is a Republican modus operandi at this point, how insane is this to go back and try to rewrite court cases or have your DOJ look at court cases that you lost, civil suits? This is literally the victor trying to rewrite history, trying to make himself look good, trying to justify the fascism so that kids in the future, our posterity, our grandkids, will read about Supreme Leader Trump and the Gulf of America in their history books. And it is so dystopian, especially when we consider that his court cronies scattered throughout the court system are likely to let it happen. So please let me know your thoughts in those comments down below about how insane this all is and how realistic, considering Pam Bondi has experience as an attorney general. If you enjoyed the video, if you like being informed about these things to better equip yourself, please consider dropping a like on the video, subscribe to Really American to join the resistance, help us get to 400,000 subscribers. We appreciate all of you, and for Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I will see you in the next one.